Welcome to the Soulpreneur, a place where we talk about clarity, purpose, trust, entrepreneurship, and leadership, and how we can leverage all this to create a global impact. Today, I have a very special guest, a prominent name in the leadership development space. His name is Mr. Stephen M.R. Covey. Mr. Covey is not only a New York Times bestseller, but also #1 Wall Street Journal bestseller author of his book, The Speed of Trust, the one thing that changes everything. He's also the former CEO of the Covey Leadership Center, one of the largest leadership development company in the world. And he has also led the strategy that propelled his father's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Dr. Stephen R. Covey. Today, we have the pleasure and the honor to have Mr. Stephen M.R. Covey with us. And without further ado, let me welcome Mr. Stephen Covey. Mr. Covey, thank you so much for joining us. It's an absolute pleasure and a privilege to be in your presence. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Abbood, for those very kind words. I'm excited to be with you. I'm grateful for this opportunity to have a discussion and dialogue with you and about the things you mentioned, trust and purpose and clarity and how all of this connects. So real honor to be with you as well.
A pleasure and honor is all mine. And we also have an event coming up on March 9th. I believe you are giving a masterclass about the speed of trust, which is based on this book, which I highly recommend everybody to read. And which leads me to the first conversation, the first question in this conversation with you, Mr. Covey. What I found astonishing about your book is the level of clarity that you had to reach in order for you to conceptualize a value such as trust, put it in an economic ecosystem, to create trust accounts or emotional accounts like Dr. Covey was talking about in his previous book. How did you reach that level of clarity in order for you to make a training program based on a value?
I think two key things that happened. The first was that when I kind of worked as a CEO and ran the Covey Leadership Center, I began to see how if we built trust in our team, in our culture, in our organization, so internally, as well as built trust externally with partners and with suppliers, distributors, and with customers, that once we did that, it changed everything in profound ways. And so in a sense, when I saw that, I felt like that was my calling. So that was the first thing, is I felt called, that trust was a big idea, that we live in a world of declining trust and that we needed to focus on it consciously, deliberately. And I felt like that was something I could do to make a difference. And so that was the first thing, is getting a sense of clarity around my purpose to help increase trust in the world. And then the second piece, so the first was my own sense of clarity around my purpose, that I wanted to help increase trust in the world because that would change everything. I saw what it did for our organization, and I said, this could also help other people and other organizations. And I felt called to it. That was #1. #2 was I then kind of waded through all the complexity to come out the other side with simplicity. And when you achieve the simplicity on the far side of complexity, that's when something becomes clear. And clarity is power, but you have to earn the right to get there. And I had to wade through the complexity. It reminds me of the statement by Oliver Wendell Holmes, where he said, I wouldn't give a fig for the simplicity on the near side of complexity, but I would give my life for the simplicity on the far side of complexity. In other words, if it's just simplistic, that's not going to work. That's not powerful. That's not clear. But if you go beyond simplistic, you wade through the complexity, because you got to pay the price to get through the complexity and then come out the other side and then achieve simplicity on the far side of complexity, you paid a price. You've earned it. And because it's robust, that's true simplicity, not just being simplistic. And when you achieve true simplicity, that is clarity, and clarity is power. But I think that clarity had more power for me because it was also aligned with my sense of personal purpose. So that was kind of the combination, those two things. First, a sense of personal purpose. Second, wading through the complexity and trying to come out the other side of complexity with a simple approach, a simple model. And that's what I think we were able to achieve with the speed of trust.
And that's amazing, because a lot of people do struggle finding simplicity by overthinking stuff and even exerting too much effort to think about purpose, as opposed to leaving it to come naturally to them. Which I want to take you back in history and figure out the moment, the day that you actually says, like, you know what, I'm going to do this. How did that happen organically for you?
Well, what I'll never forget, I'd become clear that I wanted to shift the trajectory of my career. For years, I'd been running our business, leading the business, growing the Covey Leadership Center all around the world. And I liked it. I loved it. I was good at it, I thought. And I helped my father take the 7 habits of highly effective people and go all around the world with this, and building a team and building partners and really and scaling it and doing this all around the world. And I felt like that was act one for me. But then I felt compelled that when I began to see how trust changed everything, I felt a sense of, this is my voice now. I want to focus on how we can help leaders and organizations increase trust in the world, because I felt like we had underestimated trust. We'd assumed it. We'd taken it for granted. We neglected it. We ignored it until we lost it. And I felt like if we could focus on this and get good at this, it would change everything. And so I believe purpose, finding your purpose, is as much discovery as it is creation. I think it's equal parts. Yeah. It's correct. Certainly creation. You help create it by just really focusing on what excites you and what are you good at, and where there's a need and an opportunity, and what do you feel compelled to do, and what do you feel inspired to do. But I also think there's also an equal part of discovery. And I think I kind of discovered this, and it came to me one morning that I want to focus on increasing trust in the world. And I'll never forget that morning where I had clarity around what I wanted to do around this. And what resulted from that was the speed of trust and all the work that we did around that. And then ultimately some other offerings and services, because it's a big idea to focus on trust. But yes. But it was equal parts creation and discovery. And the discovery part was very exciting. It was just the clarity that came to me that the things I'd been thinking about for a few years, that there was a need for that in the world. And that's where I went down that path more fully.
Amazing. Because many leaders, sometimes they might be a little bit clear about what they want to do, and they might have a sense of purpose, so to speak, but they're still stuck, I think, in the analysis paralysis state, where they cannot actually take that extra step to explore the possibilities by following that passion and following that purpose. So how did you manage to leverage clarity and purpose in order for you to unleash your entrepreneurial drives to take this message to the world and make a business out of it? How did you leverage that?
Well, it was once I became clear that I had something to say, that I found my voice, so to speak, and that I felt called around trust, that it was a big idea that was not adequately represented for the impact that it had, and that I had a sense of purpose around this. Once I became clear about that, then that opened up possibilities that I probably had never thought about otherwise. But I needed the sense of clarity around a purpose first. And when I achieved that, I began to see possibilities and options and ideas that I never had seen before. And they were both, again, things that emerged, that maybe I saw things in a whole new way, and I saw possibilities I didn't see before, the same thing looking at. They emerged. They also were things that we created. I think that path forward is both a combination of creation and emergence. In other words, there's serendipity, and you seek opportunities, and things come together. And then I also feel like, because my voice was around trust, the clarity of how trust is built from the inside out. My core model that trust begins with self-trust.
Correct.
It ripples out from there to relationships. Then it ripples out from there to your team and to your organization, and then to your customers and the market, and then to all society. So trust is inside out, but that self-trust is where it begins. And that's authenticity. It's your character, it's your competence. And that is clarity about who you are. So you're authentic, that you are who you say you are. And that, you do what you say that you value. That's clarity. And so even my message was a message of clarity around self-trust being the foundation for all other trust, and that trust is built from the inside out. And so that also galvanized my efforts. And then the idea that I wanted to now give it away. I think it was Pablo Picasso who said, the meaning of your life is to find your gift, and the purpose of your life is to give it away. So now, having found my gift, I now wanted to give it away and get it out there. And then I became more entrepreneurial as I felt like I had something to say, and I felt like it would add value. And now I wanted to find the ways to say it. And so that's where where I wrote The Speed of Trust. And from that, we were able to create products and offerings and consulting and training and speaking and assessments and measurements and tools to really help people, help leaders, help organizations build high trust teams and high trust cultures as a means of achieving their great purposes. That trust was a great accelerator and multiplier and energizer for everything they were trying to do. When you have a lofty goal, a mission, a purpose like that, then you can find all kinds of avenues and channels. Your entrepreneurial drive is unleashed to manifest that in a way that is of value to people, that makes a difference.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for
big part of your work too, right, Abbood?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Tapping that entrepreneurial drive that people have, and you're helping them achieve clarity, so that and a sense of purpose, so that they can use that as a means of tapping into their entrepreneurial drive. Isn't that what your work's all about?
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. And I would love to extend
Soul Warrior.
There you go. Yes. The Soul Warrior. I have the book. So I would love to invite as many people as we can for the event for the Masterclass on March 9th. For those who have not had the chance to read the book or not know necessarily too much about trust, for those leaders, what can we tell them and what they're going to be missing if they don't participate in that class?
Well, here's what we're going to do, Abbood. I'm going to do three main things. The first is I'm going to make a compelling business case for trust, an economic case. See, everyone knows trust is important as a social virtue.
Correct.
And it is. But I'm going to also show how trust, in addition to being a social virtue, how trust is an economic driver that affects the speed at which we can move and the cost of everything. And I'll make a very compelling business case for trust, that it impacts our economics, our financials, and our business in profound ways. And that's a paradigm shift for most people. People know trust is social. They don't know it's financial. So that's the first thing. I'll make a business case for trust. That's a big idea. The second big idea is even bigger. And that is, I'm going to make a leadership case for trust. And I'm going to show how trust is the one thing that changes everything. And how if you as a leader and your team or your organization as a company, if you can get good at building trust on purpose, that when you do that, it will impact and multiply everything else that you're trying to do. Your ability to lead change goes up with trust. Your ability to build a culture of inclusivity and diversity goes up with trust. Your ability to collaborate with people goes up with trust. Your ability to innovate goes up with trust. Your ability to engage people goes up with trust. Your ability to inspire people goes up with trust. Your ability to execute strategy, to attract and retain great people. Everything you're trying to do, you can do better when you start with trust. It is a performance multiplier, a great accelerator, and an energizer of teams, of cultures, and of relationships. And I call that collectively the leadership case for trust. So those first two big ideas is the why, a business case and a leadership case for why trust is the new currency of our times. And then if you buy the why, you then want to move into the how. And that's the third big idea. I'm going to show participants how trust is a learnable skill, how trust is a competency that you can build on purpose, intentionally. And I'm going to give people a framework so they can think about trust, a language, a common language, so we can talk about trust, and then a process of how we can build trust intentionally, on purpose. I'm going to use tools in the form of cards that we'll use to give people a way of thinking about trust and things that they can do as a leader to build trust from the inside out, starting with themselves and then rippling out to their relationships, their team, their organization, their culture, their market, their stakeholders, their customers, and then society at large, inside out, around our credibility and our behavior. I'm going to make this practical, tangible, actionable for any leader and for any organization, and how they can turn trust into the greatest asset they have to do everything else they're trying to do. So it's going to be all around those three big ideas: a business case for trust, a leadership case for trust, answering the question why, and then a complete methodology of how you can build trust intentionally and turn it into your greatest strength as a leader and as an organization. And I think it'll be valuable for everybody that is part of it. And also I will add one last thing, Abbood, and this is very aligned with your work as well. And with the Soul Warrior and your 4 powers to unleash your entrepreneurial drive is I'm going to give a little bit of a sneak peek into a new book I have coming out.
Exciting.
And on April 6th, called Trust and Inspire. And this is all how truly great leaders unleash greatness in others. And how the kind of leadership that is needed in a new world of work. A new world of work requires a new way to lead. And this is about that. And the way to lead is not the old style of command and control, or even the more advanced version of enlightened command and control. No, it's about trust and inspire, a new way to lead in a new world. And I'm going to lay out the gist of that idea as part of the case for trust. And I'll be talking about the leadership style that's needed in our new world. That'll be a bonus for attendees as well, to give a sneak peek of where I'm going with this new work that comes out on April 5th. So that's what it's going to be about. And I think it'll be exciting. I think it'll be of value for any participant. And I'll try to really make this something that is practical, tangible, actionable for leaders everywhere.
This is very exciting. I can't really wait to start that masterclass and make it as a growth strategy for 2020, because the whole concept, trust being a currency, is exciting by itself. I mean, we never really understood how to leverage such value to propel our effectiveness and efficiency. But the fact that we are actually going to attend a masterclass with you, we have tools. I mean, just looking at the cards, I was like, wow, you even reached to that level of clarity to make tools and gamify it, That is an amazing opportunity. I'm looking forward to it. And I'm excited to know a little bit more about what's next for Mr. Cobby with his book. Because from what you were saying, not only is trust going to be important, but I've sensed from you the entrepreneurial drive for every leader that should embrace. So how important is the entrepreneurial drive for every leader there is who's leveraging trust for much more efficient leadership?
I think it's critical. I think that what you're trying to tap into when you talk about entrepreneurial drive, the whole premise is that it's inside of people. And our job is to unleash it, what's already inside them. And that's a big part of this new work I'm working on, Trust and Inspire. People get the idea of trust. I've been working on that, but I've added to it inspire. And the premise is that people don't want to be merely motivated. They want to be inspired because they're whole people, body, heart, mind, spirit, which again is aligned with your work and the idea that they're whole people. And so it's not enough just to have an economic win that is necessary, but insufficient. They also, that takes care of the body, the physical, the health, but also they have a heart, a desire for connection with people. They have a mind, a desire to use their talents and their skills and their knowledge and to contribute that way. But they also have a spirit, a desire for purpose, for meaning, for contribution. And when you tap into all of that, that inspires. To inspire means to breathe life into. And so, but the idea is that it's already there. You're just igniting the fire within. And entrepreneurship is also inside of people, that drive inside. You're trying to ignite the fire within to bring it out. And that's inspiration. And that's where I think leadership is going, towards inspiration and not just motivation. And there's
Absolutely.
a difference. And
Yes.
so that's that. Yeah, we'll give a sneak peek of that because that's the kind of leadership that's needed in this new world. Trust and inspire. So the focus will be in the masterclass on leading at the speed of trust and with a real practical approach and a little bit of extra around this trust and inspire idea being the new way to lead in a new world.
This is going to be a very exciting class. I can't wait to learn from it myself and actually adapt it for my own growth strategy this year. Mr. Covey, thank you so much for your time. And I really appreciate explaining everything about the book, the masterclass, the new book. When do you anticipate that the book is going to be out?
It comes out worldwide on April 5th in worldwide
April
English.
5th.
I don't know when all the translations will be done, but worldwide English on April 5th, 2022. So
Excellent.
shortly.
Excellent. Thank you so much. One last word for our viewers who are seeking purpose, trust, motivation, entrepreneurship, leadership. Sometimes all these concepts together collectively might be overwhelming. And you might get lost, like, which one should I start? What would be the very simple first step that every leader should start taking now to prepare themselves for what's come in the future for them?
I would say this. To me, the very first step is to look in the mirror and ask and answer the question, do I trust myself? And do I give to my people, my team, a leader who they can trust? In other words, is it smart to trust me? If you look in the mirror and you start with yourself and you go first as a leader, you're modeling the behavior. You're demonstrating your character, your competence first to yourself so that you have a sense of self-trust. I trust myself. That gives you clarity. That gives you power. But then also so that others can trust you because of who you are and your character, your competence, your credibility, your moral authority, because of who you are as a leader, so that it's smart for people to trust you. They want to be with you. You inspire others because of who you are. And if you start with that, then from that flows everything else. Self-trust is the beginning point for every other virtue to come into it. And that's, gives you the confidence to move ahead and develop your entrepreneurial capabilities because you have that sense of self, of who I am, what I'm about. So, who you are and how you lead, and then connecting to why it matters. But it starts by looking in the mirror with self-trust and asking and answering those two questions. Do I trust myself? And do I give to others a person and a leader who they can trust? And if you can answer affirmatively to both those, that's a great starting point to add everything else to that, and to build upon that, and because you have the right foundation that you can springboard from. So that would be my charge and invitation to everyone: is let's all start with self-trust. It's the beginning of everything else.
This is by far the most valuable advice I've ever had or received in the space of leadership, because a lot of people concentrate on leadership or define it as leading people. It's all about others. But actually, to look at yourself and lead yourself, that's the core of it. And that was the best advice I've had. Thank you so much for sharing that. Mr. Covey, I really appreciate everything and looking forward to working with you, collaborating with you further down the line. And thank you for all the time that you have given us today. And I wish you all the best and looking forward for future collaboration. Thanks again.
Thank you, Abbood. Great to be with you. And I look forward to being with you on our event on March 9th, where you're going to help on the back end of that with me. And on a fireside chat, I look forward to that, and look forward to, again, connecting on these ideas. So
absolutely.
Wish you every success as we move forward.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Thank you. Bye-bye.